One important reason for this is that the Holocaust mostly happened in Europe, to Europeans, spreading the idea that the Holocaust was a special, unique atrocity, and that the Nazis were the greatest of all evils, unlike anything before or after, is very useful in the Western countries where this practice is most common, because most of them have fairly recent histories full of colonialism and genocidal atrocities committed against non-European peoples. In many cases, these atrocities were so similar to what the Nazis sought to do that they actually took specific inspiration from them in their invasion of Eastern Europe and their carrying out of the Holocaust. I have a much longer video on this point if you'd like to learn more about that specifically. So it's very useful to Western countries to spread the idea of the ultimate victims of history being white-skinned Europeans, more superficially akin to themselves than to the majority darker-skinned victims of their own atrocities. There's further clear utility in it for these countries to exceptionalize the Holocaust and render it taboo to compare it to anything else, as this by default puts their own crimes on a lower rung of importance. It's also the one big time in modern history where many of these Western colonial nations were on the right side, and could be credited with helping to save people who were being victimized rather than victimizing them. So hyper-focusing on that helps them to cleanse their collective conscience of everything else that came before and after. But there's something else beyond just that though. After all, there is quite an overwhelming focus in Holocaust education, specifically on the Jewish victims of the Nazis, as emphasized in that Holocaust Educational Trust statement that I cited. And this sort of focus simply wouldn't be necessary if what I just outlined was the only purpose of Holocaust education. And that's because there's another, even more important purpose: to legitimize Israel. This is something that, until fairly recently, was only really talked about much in academia, where a small number of scholars have pushed back against the pro-Israel historians committed to exceptionalizing the Holocaust. As historian of Jewish history Shira Klein explained, for Holocaust scholars defending Israel, their stand intertwined with their understanding of the Holocaust itself. The individuals defending Israel tended to take the approach of Holocaust exceptionalism, the idea that the Shoah, the destruction of Europe's Jews, differed from any other genocide in history. Holocaust exceptionalism lent itself to a sort of Israel exceptionalism, which absolved Israel of any potential wrongdoing. According to this narrative, just as the Holocaust was uniquely terrible, so Israel, the state of Holocaust survivors and representative of the Jewish people, had to be uniquely good and uniquely protected. These pro-Israel academics, in their fixation on arguing that the Holocaust is unique and special, provide intellectual-seeming justifications to the Western governments that support Israel and to Holocaust education institutions, who then push them out of the academic bubble and onto the broader public. This helps to subtly spread the idea of exceptional, unmatched, and indeed, still ongoing Jewish victimhood, that Jews are basically innately oppressed in all times and places, regardless of how clearly things have changed in the last 80 years. This is supposed to legitimize Israel, as it is the so-called Jewish state. The idea is that average people who are exposed to Holocaust education are primed to be more accepting of the notion that Israel is a state of exceptional victims who deserve exceptional sympathy, who could never truly victimize others, and certainly not in a way that could ever be analogous to any aspect of the Holocaust. And if they did victimize others, well, they're so exceptional that we can give them an exception that makes it okay for them to do it.